Welcome to Better Together Customer Conversations. I'm Tamara McCleary, CEO of Thulium. On this podcast, you will hear directly from SAP customers and partners as they share what's going on with their businesses, their experience innovating, and how they're using SAP's business technology platform. Each episode of Better Together has 4 parts: an intro blog, this podcast, a LinkedIn live post, and a wrap-up blog with key takeaways. You can join the conversation at sap.com/BTP. This episode, we're talking about digital transformation as a springboard for innovation and sustainability. Incremental change is all well and good, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to transformation, it doesn't pay to think small. With the right mindset, tools, and leadership, you can turn a mom-and-pop business into a global enterprise. The customer we're featuring today is living proof of the power of innovation. Evernex is a multi-vendor IT hardware and third-party maintenance company. The business began as a small third-party hardware business in France, but today they have over 1,000 employees in 160 countries worldwide. And an additional cool factor, sustainability is built into their business model. They use 100% refurbished and reused equipment. To get the whole story, we have Evernex's Emmanuel Roland and digital transformation expert Marcel Vollmer. Let's start with some brief introductions. Emmanuel?
So I'm Emmanuel Roland, the Chief Digital and Technology Officer for Evernex. Evernex is a company founded in France about 30 years ago. And what we do, we maintain IT infrastructure, delivering maintenance services in approximately 160 countries. What we do is we manage the infrastructure performance of our customers, and we help them to continue to use their infrastructure as long as they want. We can undertake the maintenance of any type of hardware, any manufacturer, as a single point of contact. We have 800,000 spare parts located in 300 facilities in the world. And using this asset, we are able, with our expert, to diagnostic a fault on any equipment in all those countries, dispatch a part, dispatch a technician, and resolve the issue. And this is one of the reasons the customers are going to us, is because we help them to keep their assets as long as they need for green IT and for to ensure they don't have to replace their equipment too often. And also, many customers does a lot of investment in terms of development, and they want to make sure that this investment will be able to last as long as they can. In addition to this maintenance services that we're offering, we also offer second-hand equipments by which we can deliver servers, network equipment, storage, or whatever, as a second-hand, where we had, of course, warranty and maintenance. And in some countries, we are able also to do financing to help our customers develop their infrastructure as they need.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Marcel, can you tell us a little about your background and experience?
Yeah, my name is Marcel Vollmer. I'm a partner and director at Boston Consulting Group. And my role is helping clients to define their digital transformation strategies and execute on them with the main focus on procurement and supply chain. My background is, to keep it in a nutshell, 15 years at DHL, 14 years at SAP. I was Chief Procurement Officer, Chief Operating Officer, and Chief Digital Officer on the SAP side. And before BCG, I was 1 year at Celonis as Chief Innovation Officer. Celonis is a market leader for process mining, process analytics.
Fantastic. Now, Emmanuel, let's start with the Evernex customer story, because it's a pretty impressive one, and I think it illustrates everything that we want digital transformation to be. That is, at the risk of sounding redundant, transformative. Tell us where you started and how it's going.
Well, actually, 2.5 years ago, our legacy platform was very limited. We used to have an open source solution to run our case management. We were starting to have a little bit of CRM we were not really using. And most important, we try to develop something very custom. And in terms of stock management and logistics, because we are doing logistics, supply chain, we had an in-house developed system. And this is where the issue starts. The company was very successful, as a very big growth year on year. We also had a strategy to expand by acquisition. And to do that, you need to make sure you have the right platform to be able to support your growth and your strategy. When you have something developed internally based on open source or whatever, that raises a lot of questions in terms of compliance, in terms to be able to be the platform and the foundation for innovation. You need also to invest a lot to develop by yourself. And when you go to large customers or to any customers, well, they always have lots of questions around your platform. When you start to switch to use world-class leaders like we do with SAP, for example, and with others, there's no question about the capability of the platform and the fact that it will last forever. Also, the reason that one of the challenge we had is since we do acquisition, we have an environment that is always made of different type of solutions. So we had to find a way to cope with different ERP. Of course, we've got our main ERP, but when you buy a company, when you acquire another company, they have their own system, and sometimes the business value to migrate is not there. So we had to find a way to create a kind of abstraction layer to be able to hide the fact that we have different systems underneath, but for the user, they don't have to care about the system. Just to give you one example, when we need to dispatch a part, depending on the country, it relies on different companies we have acquired. So you might have to use different ERP system. And if the dispatcher needs to think, okay, in this country I need to use this system and this another system, it's just impossible to support and to answer in the SLA we have with our customers. So we build this abstraction layer that knows, depending on country, what system is underneath. And for the dispatcher, he has only one system to use, and it doesn't have to worry about all the mechanic that is under. And this is more my job to see how we optimize the mechanic underlying the user experience. It's really the one of the most important things we wanted to do is to have a user experience approach to try to deliver to each user the one tool that does one function, the main function, giving the abstraction of the complexity that's quite often happens in a digital environment.
I love that idea of an abstraction layer. That makes it easier for customers to have a seamless experience across all of these different solutions. It seems like this would empower employees and sales staff as well, right?
User experience, for me, it's key. When you have a core system, you need to have a core system to manage your stock, your finance, and what we call an ERP, but it has a specific logic. When you talk to a salesperson, they have no idea and they don't understand the logic of an ERP. And when you want, for example, a salesperson to know, when we start the digital transformation, the salespeople told me, well, I just want the list of my contract. And for each contract to know what are the invoice we receive, what are the invoice to come, and what is the scope of business we've got with them, what is the part, the installed part. If you give an access to the ERP for those salespeople, they will be lost and they will need to do lots of research and so on, run reports. It doesn't resonate with the way they think, with the way they work, with what is their DNA. So we built a dedicated application, and we call it Demeter because we give to our application. I love Greek mythology, and so we give to all the applications we develop on top of our different system a name of mythologic names of gods. And all names is related to what the application does. That's a little bit to make a little bit of for people to remember and to make something a little bit funny about the digital. So we create this application, and the sales, when it connects to Demeter, they just see their contract. So all the search and the query you have to do on the ERP, and now that with the acquisition we've got 4 different ERP, the sales doesn't have to know. It just launch Demeter, we reconnect who he is. Demeter knows what query to do, and it displays all the contract. So, and then you click on the contract and you got all details, consolidating details for different systems. So this is really a big value because you give to every person actually a window to your digital platform that match with the way they think and with what they expect and match with what they need to focus on their job. So that's another example of the strategy we had to build this abstraction layer on top of the different underlying systems. That is just something that the digital has to care about.
Absolutely. And what I find really impressive is you're doing all of this with refurbished equipment. When we think about digital transformation, we tend to think of shiny new tech, but you're actually building sustainability and longevity into the process. That's not super common in IT hardware.
Well, first, this is our DNA. The company has been built with the idea that when you buy a new server, for example, you have a maintenance provided by the manufacturer, and after 3 years it's over. And the first approach was either you try to extend the warranty, and it's very, very expensive, usually by the manufacturer, or you say, I will change. And we said there's a way to do something different. So what we do at Evernex, we had the idea, and that comes from the initial, the background of the people who founded Evernex, who did that in the past. They said, why should we change the servers or the network or the equipment just because they're 3 years old and they fit for purpose? And there's also other reason. When you invest massively to develop million lines of codes on the server, you don't want to change and have to do massive check again. So the idea that Evernex said, that's when you have made some investment, you should be able to use this investment as long as you need and as long as you want. And there's a lot of equipment available on brokers on market. So we had this idea to say we will organize a team to be able to buy any type of equipment, of hardware parts, and maintain and organize a supply chain and create the capabilities to raise field engineers in 160 countries to be able to act and replace a part, and also develop an expertise, multi-component, multi-manufacturer, and multi-technologies to be able to understand what are the issues. And now we're in a position to really manage the performance of an infrastructure and without being able to use only second-hand equipment. And we strongly believe that it is the future of IT, of digital platform, to try to reuse whatever we have and to focus on more how we can build on top and build application and keep the infrastructure working as long as possible. It's really something we believe we've got a kind of not mission, but this is our DNA, and we really want to try to help. We believe that more and more companies want to do that, and we are really here to help. And we know company that I've got, for example, we're working for a company that start its new headquarters, and they want to use only second-hand equipment. And I think it's becoming more and more important and more frequent to have that type of attitude. And there's another benefit is that you don't have. We really free we realize that in many companies, you spend a lot of time, invest a lot of people and thinking and time to say, okay, I need to change my equipment. How I do that? What will be the impact? What type of non-regression test I need to do? Say, hey, don't change. Keep them as long as you need. We will maintain them, and you focus on what you do with them. So we manage the performance of our infrastructure. You manage what you use your infrastructure for. This is really the kind of game changer that we tell our customers. Don't care any longer about your infrastructure. We'll do it. Just care about what you build on top of those infrastructure and keep it and build for a long time.
What a great business model, proving you can innovate and still participate in the circular economy and get a longer lifespan out of hardware. Marcel, how would you advise businesses to look at digital transformation in a way that goes beyond just ordering new servers or software solutions?
I think companies really need to think about what is my business model today and what is it what customers want me to do in the future, to think about the right innovations itself. And when you look what's happening out there and take the Fortune 500 companies as one example, when you look back at the time of 1955, only 57 of the original Fortune 500 companies still exist. Since 2000, more than 50% of the Fortune 500 companies disappeared. Why is that? Because they couldn't really transform and go for the next level of the business success stories they have started with. When you look today, what is it all about? It's about the tech companies. On the market capitalization, Apple number 1, followed by Microsoft, by Google or Alphabet. The top 10 is basically except of 2, which is Saudi Aramco and Berkshire Hathaway. It is all about tech companies. And therefore, companies need to look into that to really have a healthy innovation process in place to think about really what is it what they can do to serve their customers best. And it might be also very disruptive. When you look at great success stories like Uber, the world's largest taxi company, basically they don't own taxis. Airbnb doesn't own hotels. I know they started now with some flagships, what they want to establish. Alibaba does not have any inventory. Facebook does not own the content which is shared on their social media platform. Netflix does not have cinemas because it's all now the streaming what you do. And this is exactly the customer perspective I like to put into the focus, because this is at the end what counts. Your customers need to love your product.
Exactly. Digital transformation has to be the means to a goal, not a goal in and of itself. Emmanuel, would you agree?
Digital transformation is not about selecting, as said, technologies and new things and building together. It's really about understanding how you transform the company with the support of digital. And I often say to my people, the digital transformation is not an objective. It's a mean to reach a company objective, not even a technical objective, a company objective. So you need to have a company objective, a promise you want to do, a purpose, and then you see how the digital can support and enhance the objective you have and help delivering the objective. And this is what is for me the digital transformation. This is very key. And one other thing also important is, I think it's the same in many companies, but when we think we need to do something, we say, okay, we need to develop something, we need something new. And the first thing you should ask yourself is, how can I do with what I have already? How can I go to the standard? How can I reuse already what I've developed? And so that's how we approach the digital transformation at Evernex. We believe that it's not an objective, but it's just a mean, a way to reach our objective. And our objective is to continue to develop our services, to innovate. Our customers expect more and more. They expect more than they used to expect 10 years ago. And we know they continue to have expectations as they develop. So we need to innovate. And this is what the digital transformation is about, to innovate, but in a way to serve a business objective.
Right. So how do companies arrive at the right business objective to aim for? How do they set the goal in a strategic way? Marcel?
It starts with the leadership. Not having the right leader, not having a vision, why to do the change, why to drive innovations, why to transform and change the way how you do business, how you did business in the past. But it also continues with the data and the access to information and technology, what you have or don't have. Look at the smartphone at Apple, for example. The Gorilla Glass, the innovation, Tim Cook as Chief Supply Chain Officer at this time, before 2007, the first iPhone got released, is an entire new innovation. So basically also products might not even exist. What we also see out there is that companies pursuing the wrong projects. They are not really looking into what is it what helps the customers in the best way. On the other side, you see that sometimes companies more looking for incremental improvements. So having a 5, 6, 10, 20% improvement is something they feel comfortable with, instead of a radical innovation, coming up with something which is 10x, 20x, 50x more than before. And this is really what drives the change. So when you look at the roadblocks, I would definitely put leadership as number one. I would put the not available data or technology as number two. So you might to innovate to fix this. And the third topic I would see as a roadblock is putting the wrong projects on top of the agenda and pursuing them instead of focusing on what really adds value and is the next big thing you can also sell successfully to your customers.
I agree wholeheartedly. And Emmanuel, it does seem like Evernex's customers love your product. I think this is a fascinating case because at Evernex, you went through your own digital transformation and now you're helping your customers go through it themselves. What are the essential elements of that transformation process? Not the tech per se, but the mindset, the change management.
When I go to digital transformation meetings or meet with a CDO, the first thing they said is, we've done this new app, this new thing, and so on. And when they said, "What have you done?" I said, "We've done a massive training for every single sales to remember how to best use the tool they have." And today, when I build, we just launched a new program to add some capabilities to better schedule intervention on site for our customers. So we connect a new module to our CRM. We invest as much money in managing the change and training than we invest in implementing the solution. Given that, we try to implement the solution also as standard as possible. And that's also something very important in the digital transformation for me. If you get an ERP like SAP, it has been done by a company who has years of experience with one of the leaders. And sometimes you see people that said, "Okay, I buy SAP and I try to redevelop it and to change it and develop and make a lot of custom." Why should you do that? They're not our job. So just use it as it is. It's probably fit exactly for the purpose. You might have some specific touch. Then do it around, as we did using BTP to develop some application to do some specific things around. But go to the standards. And then go to the standards and bring your people to the standards, bring your people and see how you can transform your process to adapt to the standard. It will always work much better. It will be more efficient. And this is the best way to get the value of your tools. And having said that, I think in all digital team, we should all have a team dedicated to change management and training. This is probably something that companies should think about, that we should have. And I know there's a lot of companies that now are specialized in helping customers to develop their change management. But I think it's core. We should have somebody in charge of change management. Otherwise, the digital will not deliver the promise, will not deliver the perfect value that we expect.
I love the focus on change management. Agreed that it's absolutely critical. The success or failure of a transformation initiative comes down to the people. Wouldn't you agree?
And it's true in a company. The core asset of a company is not the digital platform, is the people. We are not at a point, and I'm very happy we are not, where a company is 100% technology. And the core people, the people are still the main asset. And having said that, you need to make sure that people understand. So there's always also, when you talk about transformation, digital transformation, you forget to give the purpose of why you're doing that. So it's also very important to build a message where you start with the purpose. First, if you explain to the people, if you tell the people, okay, with the transformation, digital transformation, we will change the ERP. Well, how do you want people to understand what you're doing? If you said, we've got a strategy, we want to be the worldwide leader, we need to be able to have an acquisition platform where we can merge new companies, we need to better, to use, we generate a lot of data, we need to be in a position where we can understand and get value from our data and to better serve our customer and to make your life easier and to make your job more easier to perform on a day-to-day task and so on and so on. Then you give a context. You explain why we will ask people to change, because whatever it is, when people ask to change, it's an effort. So when you want someone to make an effort, he needs to understand why he's doing this effort. And then also on the digital transformation, I can give the example also of the finance, which is a key element. We in the company, we always talk about salespeople, and that's important. That's the people who score, but there's all the background people, and finance as digital are very important people in the company. If you see all the numbers that you need to do, I realize here at Evernex, some of the people who do the controlling, they spend almost 80% of their time to consolidate data, to build data from the previous system. How do you expect them to have the energy after spending days to collect data to analyze the data? And collecting data is not the value. It's not the value they bring to the company. It's the value is the analysis they do. So in our digital transformation, we implement this BI approach by which we work closely with them to understand exactly how they were consolidating what they want to do, to consolidate the data, to hide again the complexity of data coming from different sources, so that they can, all this part that has no value is done by the system, and then they can dedicate their time on analyzing. So when you say that, it can be seen as something, of course you need to do that, but if you try to be on the shoes of those people, they spend probably the last 15 years to collect data. So they might, the first impression is, okay, the tool is removing part of my job. So you need them to explain, and that the change management say, no, okay, we remove something you do because it's something that has no value that the system can do for you. And then you'll be able to spend more time to analyze the data, where then you bring your expertise, you bring your skills, and you bring more value to the company. And when you explain that like that, well, there's no problem. People understand, help you, and are supportive. And then you can also have this governance by which they are involved at each steps. They are involved from the very early stage where they say what they want. And that is also something very important in this example and all the other examples. When we develop a Greek Army app or dashboard reports, it always starts with a business owner who will explain what they want. They will not tell, they will not say, I need a report. They say, I've got this problem, I've got this need. Then the digital team will say, okay, to answer the problem, this is what I propose to do it. So it can be an application, a report, or whatever. Then we build together, and we will also test it regularly. And so I think when you explain, when people understand what you want to do, and you involve them, then they accept the change, and then we get the real benefit of what you develop.
So keeping in mind that transformation is as much about process and people as it is about tech, Marcel, what are the building blocks of digital transformation in your opinion?
Digital is much more than just tools. It is also about the digital mindset. So when you look now how to drive this and how to define an innovation framework, I would see 3 building blocks in that. So number 1 is the innovation strategy. This is all related to the vision, what you define, and where do you really want to create growth and value for your company. The next step is the innovation engine. What is really the methodology you want to use? The research, the ideation process. Do you want to drive new product development? Do you want to define a new business model, innovation, portfolio management? The third one is then the enabling systems, what you have. Processes, tools is part of that. You need to identify the talents as well as the matrix and incentives, how to run the entire innovation process. And ideally, you use also the right methodology like design thinking to really focus on one problem and come up with a solution on that. This is how I would define the building blocks for driving innovations.
I really love the idea of the innovation engine because you are building this thing that is going to power the business, drive it forward, and accelerate it. But you have to figure out the design, the fuel, and of course, the destination. Speaking of which, Emmanuel, what do you see on the road ahead for Evernex?
I think what is next? There's we start in our digital platform also to develop an approach where we introduce microservices to be able to reuse some developments that we done. So that type of architecture to be able to have a kind of 3-layer. You've got the application, the root system, and between some services that we can reuse, and that goes together with the API and opening strategy. I strongly believe, and sometimes I give this example. Years ago, a long time ago, but it's a bit old now, there have been some people crazy enough to think they have different networks, they interconnect them together. They call that interconnected network, and we shorted it as internet, and they said this has a future. when you think what is internet is not one network, it's a combination of people who put their network together to create something bigger. I think that the companies develop digital platform and they are opening more and more. And in the future, every company will offer services and capability to connect, and we will interconnect the digital platform more and more together. We start to do that with some of our customers, and this will continue. And I think that the next game changer will be to continue to develop. And as we connect networks to create the internet, I think we will connect the digital platform of more and more companies to create service digital capabilities. I don't know how we will call that, but I think we'll create at this level a strong interconnection. And there's a lot of questions about security, about what you deliver, what is the profit you make, what is the business model, because we need to make profit. I mean, that's how things work. But I think the next level is really to have all those digital platforms to come together and create the future of internet to be the kind of digital net or whatever people will call it.
Well said. And that's such a wonderful and worthwhile pursuit. Emmanuel, Marcel, thank you for your time today. And thank you for listening to Better Together Customer Conversations. And the conversation isn't over yet. You can check out the LinkedIn Live panel hosted by Timo Elliott over at sap.com/BTP. The panel features SAP customers sharing their transformation stories and all the practical details you're craving. If you've missed an episode, want to know more, or you're even interested in being a guest on an upcoming episode, visit us at sap.com/BTP.